What's going on, YouTube? This is Jim Afanis, and today I want to talk to you guys about Heroes of the Storm. Finally, Lord Graymane himself has blessed his presence on the Nexus, and finally we can play with him. And I'll get to some gameplay a little bit later in my video, but for a little bit I wanted to talk to you guys about Lord Graymane and all the cool things that Heroes of the Storm have been doing. You guys probably noticed I haven't done many Heroes videos lately. That's because there haven't been any new heroes that have really excited me. They just kind of seem to be the same cookie cutter. And we've kind of done this before. There's maybe a little perk here or there. There are characters I wasn't really interested in. But Lord Graymane shatters that whole perception because Lord Graymane is the leader of the Worgen. If you're not sure with what a Worgen is, it's basically a fancy word for a wolf. Now, Lord Graymane and all the other Worgen have the ability to transform from human to wolf form and back again without any problem. Mysteriously, their clothes always seem to reappear, and thank goodness. Anyways, he's no different in Heroes of the Storm, and as such, you're basically getting a two-in-one character. On the outside, he is just as a human, he is a ranged assassin. And he uses his blunderbuss to shoot enemies from afar. He's got this thing called the Gillian cocktail, which is this grenade which does more damage to the back lines than the front, which is really cool for targeting healers. He has an ability to buff himself to attack a little bit faster. And then he has the ability to switch into the wolf. On the wolf form, he leaps into action. His Gillian cocktail now becomes this vicious swipe. And then he has the button to go back into default human mode. So the wolf form is not really meant to be used at all times, but I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of people playing him what I'd say incorrectly, very similar to how people played Sylvanas on launch as a pure assassin, and she is not. Graymane is great at range. Most of his abilities reside within the range, but the cool thing is when you jump into wolf form, you can leap into action, and you can do some devastating attacks to try to get that last 15 or 20% of damage to end it. I think characters or players who are going to use this character solely in wolf form are going to find that he is not a tank, and he just doesn't have the arsenal required to be in full-time wolf form, but yet I'm seeing it happen. But you know what? It's okay. That happens when a new character comes out. People really don't know how to play him. They try to change the way that he's meant to be played, and that's okay. So he's cool because he's a two-in-one. Again, Heroes of the Storm continues to push the boundaries when it comes to crazy characters. Obviously, Cho'Gall was just such a crazy social experiment. And now Graymane, basically this two-in-one. Some of his abilities are primarily used in wolf form. Some abilities are primarily used in human form. Some mix and match. It just kind of depends. One thing is for certain, you definitely want to use him in both forms to maximize your damage output and keep your survivability high, because you can dive in and out pretty much of combat freely, with the exception of wolf form that you actually have to have a target. When you dive out of wolf form back into a human, you could go anywhere you want. So this is good when you're chasing. I could see you could almost use him kind of like Illidan. Obviously, Illidan is the master when it comes to just grappling onto an opponent and not letting go. But I could see with a little clever use of how Graymane's abilities are, you could keep sustained pressure for a decent amount of time, provided you had a pocket healer, because his health pool is what you would expect from an assassin, and it's generally on the lower end of the overall health spectrum. But anyways, enough of looking at my beautiful mug. I want to show you guys a little bit of gameplay, show you just some of his abilities and how they work, and let's check that out right now. Alright, we are back here in Heroes of the Storm. There we are in the Nexus. I'm showing off all the different skins that he has. Very interesting. I don't know what his master skin looks like quite yet. There is a costume that's already available for him where he looks like a lion tamer, which is kind of ironic if you think about it. Showing off some of his abilities here, you will see that some of them are highlighted in different colors. As a human, this happens. As a Worgen, this happens. That's something different that we're used to seeing in the other hero classes right now. So that'll be interesting as people kind of build him up. I'm curious to see what builds come of him, if it makes more sense to really specialize in one build or another. Although, as I aforementioned, I do believe that being in wolf form 24/7 is not going to win you battles the way you think it will. Although it is very, very cool when he's in wolf form because he's a freaking wolf. Just cycling through all his different skill sets here, you could see that all his ultimates revolve around some sort of crazy wolf ability. The ability to cool down, very similar to what Nova has in terms of her triple tap, where if you get an ability on kill, you reset the ability and you can use it again and again and again. They did highlight this in the Graymane 101 video that was posted today, but also posted earlier on when they were showing off just kind of a teaser reel on what this guy's all about. The easiest way to show him off and just kind of dork around is to play a basic training match where I'm just playing up against a bunch of bots. As you will see, we get a sizable advantage quickly. But I think by the time I quit recording this video, we have like a 4 or 5 level lead, which probably isn't going to happen. So keep in mind that some of the damage I'm doing and some of the tankiness that I have is based solely on the fact that I am so OP, as it were, against the computer players. And obviously the computer players aren't that bright. They pretty much charge blindly. Here you can see Graymane dance, because I'm always curious when they dance. If you guys recall, Sonya did not have a dance for quite some time, so it's cool to see that Graymane gets some love. I cannot transform yet to wolf form until I have a target. I don't believe that was an ability that you will get later on where you can just dive and become a wolf anywhere. I think you always have to have a target. So I'm going to jump out into combat here and you guys can see what that looks like. Another thing to note is that when Graymane is mounted, he will always revert to human form. So if you are a Worgen and you mount, you automatically go back. You can hearth, however, as a wolf, but obviously the second you return to the Nexus and you mount up, you are back to human form again. So for the most part, Worgen is going to be for that special, as I mentioned, last 20% or so of damage. Now here you can see how fast he leaps into combat, and that's something that's really cool. You'll notice that my Q attack has changed from the Gillian cocktail into that swipe type ability. It's a little bit different, and you'll notice now that his W is a casting ability with a timer cooldown, very similar to what he had before in his human form. There's his dance. How elegant is he? Got some clothes on, thankfully. A lot of times the Worgen in these games just get butt-ass naked, so it's nice to see. He's modest as he slays the armies of hell. You will notice that I kind of play around with the E ability. So E will, what it will do is, you saw it there, as you're actually coming out of combat, you're shooting, which is nice. That is a really cool sustainability, and that is something that I see players capitalizing on as Graymane becomes more mainstream and as people understand how to use them. You could basically never stop attacking. You could dive in, continuously attack, and as you roll out, you're still attacking from afar. The damage never stops, and I think that's what makes him different than a lot of other heroes, save for maybe Illidan, and the fact that Illidan has this basic clinging effect on people where once he is in once you're in his clutches, he will not let go. I see Graymane being like that. I did experiment, albeit briefly and albeit not very well, with actually rolling on the other side of an enemy. So if for whatever reason you wanted to try to create some sort of pincer attack, or if an enemy was just flat out beating you in a retreat, you could roll into them as a human form. There's really no limit on where you go. If you wanted to roll, if you wanted to turn into a wolf and walk away and roll back in as a human, you absolutely could. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. So I feel that that synergy is probably going to create some pretty cool battles in the future. But as I mentioned, his health pool is on the lower side. I don't see him being somebody who could sustain and really bang it out with a tank in any capacity for a long period of time. Again, with a high damage output, that's nice for that like last 10%. But I mean, clearly I'm going toe-to-toe with Diablo right now with a pocket healer. But keep in mind, I'm playing against the bot. We have a 2-level lead, and Diablo is just pretty much walking by me as I just auto-attack his face because, you know, he's a computer. So there you can see I was just playing around with the roll a little bit. And I feel like that could be a really useful tool in his arsenal. I'm going to show you guys up to level 10 just to show you what his ultimate looks like, at least the one that I selected, because I think it's really kind of cool. It does have the perk later on that once you kill an enemy with it, you can basically just keep on going. I see that makes him very powerful in big team battles where you can just start dropping enemies quickly. Something that he has that's a little different than other characters, you see it on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen near his hero portrait, is this attack meter. And right now my W is on cooldown, and once I activate it, you will see that every time I hit an enemy, the meter starts counting, and it goes up and up and up. There you see the hit counter increasing, 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 and then once your hit counter stops and you haven't hit long enough, that's when your W goes into a cooldown mode, and you have to wait about 15 seconds or so before you can activate it again, which is a little different. I don't know yet, and maybe if it was clear in the notes and I just overlooked it, I don't really know what giving a high number means other than you're not casting your W as often as everybody else. Maybe that's a possibility, but there you could see Graymane was a Worgen. When you're back in the safety of the Nexus, you return. Notice the level lead here. This is what I was talking about in terms of just dominating the computer, which that's the whole reason I did this, just kind of have a little bit of, you know, free reign. Not really worry about messing up any other people's games, although I suspect there's going to be Graymane saturation like you read about. I suspect you will have Graymane in probably every quick match you play from here until, I don't know, the next character's announced, so it's going to be a while. Here is his ability called Go for the Throat. And there you can see I activate it. It's a powerful, powerful lunge that can be cast whether in human or in Worgen form that lets you dive onto the enemy for an insane amount of damage. So, all in all, I think Graymane is really cool. I'm very excited that he's around. He was one of my favorite characters in World of Warcraft just because the Worgen lore is so different. You know, some characters treat it as a curse, some characters treat it as a blessing. The fact that he is in this game and the fact that you have this 2-for-1 character is really cool, and it gives me hopes that Blizzard will continue to push the envelope and not just make cookie-cutter heroes that we kind of have gotten used to, but will continue to push boundaries of what MOBA games can be when you have these weird shape-shifting type characters. So, I'm going to get back into the action. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you got any cool Graymane tips or tricks or anything you think about them, leave them in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.